This is the shorter version of the construction review of the Mosen Music ST style guitar. The video is still long, but I think everything included is good information to be known about the guitar. This video is a little shorter because it has some of the tips I include for beginners cut out. This can lead to a bit of strange timing in some of my edits, but also hopefully a little less repetition for more experienced musicians who just like affordable instruments. However, if you are more of a beginner, the longer video may have a little more helpful info for you. So with all of that out of the way, let's get to the video. Hello everyone, and today we're going to be looking at the Mosen Music Stratocaster guitar, or ST guitar. I guess you have to say that legally. We're going to be unboxing the guitar, and then we're going to get an initial review on the stuff, how it sounds, how it was shipped to me, in general, that sort of stuff. Now, one thing I do have to say before we begin, well, two things actually. This was sent to me by Mosen Music, thank you. And then the other thing was that my courier had a very bad day or something, because the guy who delivered it delivered this and a couple other things for my dad to the wrong house. So that was interesting. So unfortunately this has sat out in the sun, in the Arizona sun, for a longer period than desired. 2 hours minimum, but probably a decent few more. Additionally, the outer box here has only a few dings other than blackening around the corners a lot. The corners are kind of messed up, but that is again down to the courier, the people who deliver the package. There's a gouge right here, but it didn't break through the box. There's a ding on this side over here. Over here, looks pretty good. Nothing there, nothing here, so hopefully the bottom of the box is good too. So let's finally open this up. Okay, so the product box is kind of swimming in this box. I don't know whose choice it was to do to pack it like this. The inner box does look okay. I believe this is my shipping receipt. Okay, so I have to try and get this out of this big box. That was easier than I thought. Okay, this is a much more manageable box than the other one. This is official electric guitar. Let the music awaken the beauty. Very good. There is this sort of designation number over here. It says MSCS50BL, so maybe that's what the style of guitar is. I don't think they make multiple styles right now, but maybe in the future. And of course by Mosen Music. The box is a little dinged up here. There's a dent right here, did not go nearly all the way through. I have a black mark on here, I don't know if that came from the other box or something. A little ding here, didn't go all the way through. There's obviously these wedges kind of going in. There's a gouge right here that looks like the damage has pushed it into and through, but there's not exactly a hole, so it's still in decent condition, hopefully. And then otherwise, all the other gouges are from the staples closing the box. So let's get started here. I don't think any shipping damage here is necessarily Mosen's fault, but hey, I guess it's a good thing. I guess it's a +1 to them if this guitar actually still is in decent condition because of how crappily the driver handled this situation, whoever the actual delivery person was. Okay, so now I should be able to flip this back over, and I think I should be able to take this lid off. Hopefully these staples didn't go into the body of the bottom part of the box. Alright, so this is very well packed. I have two little lists here. One of them is my guitar inspection list that I have made sure to grab a bunch of notes on things that should be checked. And then I have my list of stuff that the company wanted me to talk about. So unfortunately we do have to do that. Some of the stuff may be restated. Some of this stuff is just personal notes that I had to take based on the marketing that they have on their Amazon page. The kit is supposed to come with the guitar, obviously, which I assume is in the case. It's supposed to come with a case for the guitar, which we can plainly see is right here. There's supposed to be a capo, a strap, the tremolo bar, 2 sizes of Allen keys, a microfiber cloth, an instrument cord, some picks, some strings, a tuner, and even a mini amplifier shown in blue on no matter what color guitar you get. So the first selling point on their marketing is that this kit should come with everything that you need to get started playing guitar, which obviously based on the marketing that I have told you already, that should be true. I guess let's start with the little mini amp. I assume that's what this is. So this is the Mosen mini guitar amplifier Bluetooth speaker, because this also does have the capability to Bluetooth. Actually, I don't remember that being said on the actual marketing stuff. Let's see how well this is packed. Ooh, okay, that's very good. So it looks like it's rechargeable. It has a cord in it. There's bubble wrap around it. I'm going to save this for an actual review video. I feel like this unboxing is going to take a while, especially with the review of the guitar and playing and such. So there'll be a separate video going in depth about the stuff that comes with it. So let's make sure everything else is here. We have, first of all, the tremolo bar and the 2 Allen keys. Good. And then we have a kind of thin, I don't know if mylar is the right word, but it's a very thin bag. Okay, so we got a variety of stuff here. This is your 3 picks coming in a little reusable, latchable case, which is very cool. The picks have some grippy on them, and they are Mosen branded. One of them says 0.6. Are they different thicknesses? Okay, they're all the same size at 0.6 thickness. Okay, capo, very nice looking one, or different looking one. It's not your average looking capo, so that's good. Cloth. I thought this was going to be a microfiber cloth, but I'm not exactly sure if that's what this is. Either way, still good to have, because I know I have not cleaned my guitars because it has never came with a cloth. This is the guitar strap, very cool. These are guitar strings. I saw on the marketing that these weren't going to have colors on the beads, so they have them tagged with what position they're supposed to be in. Hopefully they're in the right order, but you can also probably tell which one's the thickest and which one's the skinniest. So that's good to see as well. The list is not done. We have a guitar cord, which is actually, it feels kind of, it's pretty average thickness actually. This actually feels like an actual instrument cord that you'd buy separately. So that was good on them, especially for the price of this guitar. And finally, I believe, finally you have the 80-bit tuner, which we will have to test and see how the speed is on that. And I don't know if the accuracy will be an issue, hopefully not. And then, bonus, they didn't even mention this bag. And then here we are with the case and the guitar, the moment we've all been waiting for. So the first thing is that there's little flakes of the cardboard that came off, which is a bit weird. So there's little bits of scraps on the guitar case here. Not the biggest deal. There is a comfort grip on this case, so that's already, more than you get on a lot of different cases. 2-zipper design. Okay, it opens, looks like it's halfway. I would have liked to see if this zipper would have went a little farther back to make it easier for opening, but that's okay. Let me get the guitar out and let me set it to the side. Let me just take a look at the case and see what kind of packaging. This supposedly passed a quality assurance test, so that's good to know. And then there is indeed some padding to this case. It probably would not protect the guitar from being thrown out of a car or something crazy like that, but a drop or two, maybe like sliding down sideways, maybe it would help protect it. It's still not a super thick padding, but it actually does serve as some protection. It also comes with the backpack straps. These straps look kind of a little more thin, but also the guitar is not overly heavy, so there's that. It'll probably last, hopefully. Now, let's talk about what we actually wanted to talk about here. So, we have the foam, which is it's definitely a protective foam, not super thick, but it, especially when it's built up like around the headstock here, it definitely serves its purpose. Oh, I'm having difficulty, it's sticking. Oh my god. Please come off now. Any day now. There we are. The first impressions are They asked me, first of all, what color I wanted, and neither of these cameras are probably going to do the guitar justice in what color it actually is going to be. To me, this kind of looks like a seafoam green, maybe like a Daphne or light blue. It looked like, to me, if I remember correctly, on the site, on the Amazon listing, it was going to be a little darker. So to me, this looks very similar to my Squier that I have. Very interesting. All right. The strings are detuned at a lower tension. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to just inspect the entire body of the guitar to see if there is any dings on the paint and such. What is that? That is just some gunk. Okay. I saw a black mark, so I was worried for a second. There is a little bit of sparkle, it looks like, to this body, which is cool. Okay. The plastic on the back pickguard, or cavity guard, whatever it is, it looks like it's a little bit better of plastic than some other cheaper guitars that I've seen. There is like a rubber, maybe plastic gasket on the neck plate here. Yeah, I'm just seeing like these black dirty marks. They keep thinking that they might be flaws. There's a little bit of a ding possibly right there, but it's on the back, so to me, anything on the back is, as long as it's not catastrophic, it's not bad. There are some other, looks like maybe paint faults. Looks like maybe there's a hair or something that got in there on the back. Let me look closely at the front here, though. Yeah, for the most part, I'm not seeing anything in the front. There's just these little black marks, which I might need to get that cloth out to see if I can try and rub out a little better without using my nail and messing it up. If there's any issues, they're all very small. Let me take a look at the neck here. Looks pretty good. Yeah. So anything that I'm seeing, it appears to be like an optical illusion from the grain of the wood. So yeah, everything looks good. There's no shipping damage, despite all of that crap that happened with my my shipper, my carrier, courier, whoever. And the truss rod is at the top, like normal. So what's next? The weight of the guitar. It feels pretty much like any other guitar. In fact, it actually might be a little heftier than my Squier guitar. This is like just in the right weight where it feels like there's some decent wood in here, which we'll get to a little bit later. So now we are going to just look at the general build quality. I have a bunch of stuff for that. So the first thing is the neck feel. If it is coated with anything, it is a very thin coat. It feels very natural and good. The frets, unless I'm crossing over onto the fretboard, I do not feel the frets really at all on these sides. But yeah, basically this is really good, especially for all of the things you hear from other guitar guys and all the other affordable guitars. So then we have the tuners. These are standard closed style tuners. They do feel fairly nice. This one feels a little looser. That one's a little looser too. But all of them are fairly decent. None of them are like atrocious and offending. They're not horrible, basically. Then we need to check the strap buttons to make sure that these are firmly in place, because if you put on your guitar strap and these are not in place, sometimes they can even fall out of the wood. It's very, very rare that happens. The jack, that is firmly in place as well. Sometimes that can come loose, but that usually happens, I think, more with use. Now I gotta check the pots to see if they feel good and if they have any like scratching noise and stuff. So they are not any more noisy than an average potentiometer in general. They feel very average as well. They don't feel firm, but they also don't feel like they're completely loose, like where if you like tap it, it'll turn to something else that you don't want. The fact that they feel average is a good thing. Then the next thing is the switch to see if it snaps in place properly into all the positions, which it does. No offensive noises there, at least from the physical side of it. Now the bridge, it looks fairly decent. Nothing stands out. The only thing is that I don't know if they made adjustments to this bridge or not, but all of the posts are somewhat at the max position of their height, and then the intonation looks like it was adjusted by someone because there are different links here. But yeah, the construction seems good. Nothing is wobbly right off the bat, so that's good. The next thing is the tremolo, or the whammy, whatever you want to call it, and we need to see how it feels. So it is your average screw-in style. You can screw it in at different lengths, but this is about where it wants to stop, which is unfortunately is not where you really want it to be. You could force it down into position, and then you have it really in place. It feels like it's very tensioned. It almost feels like it's not even meant to move. That's a little worrying. So we'll also back this off. So if you back it out off a turn, then it droops down, but this feels very firm for some reason. I might have to go in and check those springs. Also, I had a whammy bar once that came extremely close to the guitar body. This sticks out far enough that it actually makes sense, and it's not going to be impeding you. Unfortunately, the only thing that is impeding me is that the bridge seems to be kind of stuck. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to move, so I'll have to look at that and see what that's all about. Which actually, the next point on my list is to check the cavity, but I need a screwdriver, which I don't know if I have in here. It can also be seen as a plus or minus, but as I am sitting here unscrewing things, there is some resonance from the springs and stuff. Okay, so we take this off. This just sits on the surface. There is no routing for it, for the plate to sit inside the body. So we have a grounding wire coming out here, and then it connects to the block here, or not it connects to the teeth. I don't know what that term is actually. Very standard. Looks like the tremolo block is indeed a thin block, which is very average, and it comes with 3 springs in a triangle formation. So I may want to try and take out the middle spring at some point here because it definitely feels like there's a lot of resistance. The routing seems pretty decent. It's very clean. There's a little bit of like maybe paint flaking over on this side, but that's pretty decent. It's better than some other guitars that I've heard of. The next thing on my list is actually strap quality, if it includes a strap, which obviously this one does. Overall, definitely not the best strap I've felt, but you know, for the price of the guitar, it seems like it's okay. The weaving it seems like it's sturdy. There's only a few points where it looks like it might fray a little bit. I don't know about that. The plastic adjuster feels like it could break if it gets stepped on or something like that, so you have to be really aware of that. Next up is the holder, you know, the actual strap holder part. They feel firm enough that they will work. They don't feel like they're overly resistant like some of the guitar straps are. Basically, when you get them on the guitar, you don't feel like you can get them off again. This feels like it is in a decent middle ground, though at some point, you know, maybe a year or 2 down the line, you'll probably need a new strap. If I were to guess, this is the kind of strap holder that will just eventually, you know, it'll just wear down and fail on you eventually. Or you'll just need one of those strap lock blockers, something like that, which I do not believe any of those were included in this kit here, but that's okay, because it does seem like a decent enough strap. So the next thing is to see if there's any neck dive, which this strap is way too small for me right now. I need to adjust it. So the next thing would be to see if there's any neck dive. Got some remnants from the inside of the cavity on me. The way I have my cameras right now doesn't really help with that, but yeah, based on how I felt with the body weight, yeah, there's no neck dive whatsoever. If I like lean over, maybe there is, but with the strap kind of you know, catching on my shirt because of the average woven material, and then in combination with the body actually seeming like it's a decent wood, the center of gravity is decent on this guitar. It's, well, perfect actually. It's as good as it gets, basically. So the next thing on my list is actually is how the guitar actually sounds. Before we get into that, let's talk about some of the points that they wanted me to sell you on or whatever. So the guitar currently retails for $140, which is just a pretty mind-boggling price, especially for coming with a complete kit of stuff. even some of the most affordable guitars are usually at least $200. They want me to talk about the SSS configuration, which personally I prefer, but that just comes down to personal preference. They say that these pickups should be able to provide great blues and rock tones, among others, for other genres, and I guess I'd be inclined to agree. Their neck is a C shape with Canadian maple as the main body and a laurel fretboard, which has 22 copper nickel frets. They say that this should provide smooth playing for players of all experience levels, and I say that it's all pretty standard for any electric guitar and probably close to what you'd get with a Squire. In another place in the marketing, they do say that the frets are brass, but I personally highly doubt that. Apparently, brass frets are more used in classical guitars with nylon strings. Also keep in mind that they made no special claims about these frets being stainless steel or jumbo frets or anything like that. They are just standard frets, but that's okay. They also talk about their mini amp a little bit, and unfortunately they do make a big claim that I think might not be able to be met. They say that the amp comes with an instrument cord and 2 channels. It is easy to control and has a small size. It also has a 1/8 auxiliary jack for using the amp to output music to practice with. So that's where I'm not sure about the Bluetooth, because it does have a direct line auxiliary jack, but maybe it also has Bluetooth auxiliary capabilities? Not fully for sure. Something just started hissing and it was weird. It's kind of like, a house hiss. It also has a standard 1/8 style headphone jack for you to listen and practice to your guitar quietly. And that also means that it should be able to work with most standard headphones and earbuds and all that sort of stuff. Now the claim I'm about to talk about was placed in the middle of all those previous ones, but I felt it was necessary to separate it because it's the big claim. They say that the amp should have a tube-like sound. So I don't have a tube amp because they are typically too expensive, so I personally can't even confirm or even deny it. But also most tube amps aren't running through speakers that small, so it may be hard to really confirm or deny that statement either way. It might just sound different in general. But I think a lot of people would say that an amplifier like that just can't sound tube-like. And that also doesn't mean that it's a bad amp, it's just a claim that I don't think that the company should have probably made. Again, the neck is maple with a laurel fretboard. They say their guitar has a durable nut, but I don't know exactly how I would test that. There are no chippings or anything like that on here, which is nice to see. Apparently you can get some frayed little bits here and there, which can mess up your tuning or make it a little less consistent. This doesn't have any of that, so seems pretty good. Now here they say the actual body of the guitar is made from African mahogany, which sounds like a decent wood. This is it's an uncommon thing among affordable guitars, especially below the $200 mark. And based on what I have felt, how heavy this guitar feels, and the weight and how it sits, I'm inclined to believe them, actually. They claim that they have 2 sets of tremolo springs, which would provide a more stable recovery from using the tremolo and a more focused mid-range. I will try to verify that, but no promises. Though I also don't know if the springs would make too much difference in the tone. But another thing is that when they mention this in their marketing, the picture shows the actual string trees. The headstock is a natural wood style visual, which then also has an aesthetically pleasing wood grain. That was their words, not mine, but also I don't deny it, it looks good. This camera makes things look a little more saturated than they are, so this looks a little more butterscotch than it should. They claim that their tuners are made out of a zinc alloy, which I don't have a reason to deny that for now. They also claim that their tuners have an 18:1 turning ratio. This is on the higher end of average as far as my research goes. And that means that this guitar should be as accurate, if not a little more accurate, than most other guitars. They claim that because of their material and their construction of their tuners, that they should result in a good tuning stability and should hopefully not be affected as much by changing humidity, which I live in Arizona, so the humidity doesn't change very much unless I get blessed by a monsoon, which is actually supposed to be coming up soon. But Arizona is more predominantly just dry until it rains, for those that don't know. So those were the most important parts, in my opinion, that they were displaying. I think I got the most important stuff that they would have really liked to have said. Okay, so I am here a few hours later. So there have been a couple developments. I took this guitar into my other room, and first of all, I compared the color of the body to my seafoam green guitar, and this is definitely like the light blue, Daphne blue style thing. The other thing was that I actually took out one of the springs to make the tremolo a little more usable. I can actually press it down a decent bit, but it still takes quite a bit of force. And that is because these springs, they are toyed. They are insanely tight and tensioned. Getting this one out was terrifying. These springs are very strong, and they are even still a bit depressed when they're normally just sitting in their place. So trying to get this out was a bit difficult. I got it out using a technique that I hopefully will, from a video that I will hopefully link in the description. If you have springs like these, they are going to fling toward the inside there, and it's gonna fly around, and it was a whole thing. I don't think it caused any damage, but it definitely was worrying and a bit scary when it happened. So that's just a warning about these springs. Now let's get on to the actual playing of this guitar. I've still not actually played the guitar. I have used a few of the things while setting up this second half of the recording. I am using the cord to go into some guitar pedals. This tuner is okay. The construction is a little loose on the swivel head here. It's also a little slow reacting, or it has some false positives at some points. Usually it's pretty decent at actually detecting notes. It's not giving me anything right now though. Come on, that's gotta be a note. There you go. D sharp. Okay. Getting somewhere. Now I'm over. So it was doing okay when I was using my other guitar. It's a little slow reacting still. It doesn't react to every move you make on your tuner pegs. So it's still maybe beneficial to get like a Diodario tuner or something like that. That might be a little more quick reacting, but this will get you started. Okay, so I was getting some pinging noises, kind of this really high-pitched pinging noise, like a very high-pitched bell-like noise. And I pushed around on the back here a little bit, and it seems to have gone away. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and stretch out some of these strings. What the hell is E6? Oh, so it looks like it automatically. I accidentally pressed the button instead of held it long enough, and it changed to a guitar-specific tuning thing instead of just the chromatic tuning, which now it's on chromatic again. So I guess on the guitar tuning, it tries to estimate which string you're also on, and then what note you are tuned at as well. Let me try that guitar setting again. So obviously I'm getting a buzz here consistently. So yeah, it's getting the strings right, but I already went on the chromatic tuner and did that first. So my E string definitely rattles, and I gotta figure that out. Anyway, we're gonna just play with the guitar and see how the tone sounds and make sure and see if these parts are decent enough. We're going to be playing into my Boss Katana version 2, Mark II, whatever. We're gonna play through my premium amp, I guess, first, and then maybe we'll play through a little bit of the mini amp as well. So let's just play with some clean tones right now. So, a common issue that I see, and it appears that this guitar probably has it too right out the box, is that the G string, of course, it's just slightly out of tune, at least especially at the front end here. The intonation is off. Now, I don't know if that's going to come down to the intonation of the entire scale, or if that is just the nut intonation, because the nut intonation is a little bit different sometimes. So let's go to my list and test everything out, make sure that everything is correct. This isn't the right list. Okay, so the first thing was to tune the guitar and see if it stays in tune. We'll have to check that in a bit. We have to check the pots to see if there's going to be any crackle, and there is no push-pull positions or anything advanced like that. I feel like they would have advertised that if there was anything like that. So the volume works. Tone. I can never remember which tone affects what. Okay, well, it's hard for me to tell. This is still not the right list. Okay, so the next thing is to check the pickup switch. I already kind of been doing that, but there's no like popping or crackling of any sort. There's no noise with the switching of the pod. That's great to hear, especially from out of the box. Very good. Because of how loose this headstock tuner is on the body of it and the swivel of it, it does like to rattle. But luckily you can put it in since it's so malleable with how it likes to fold up, you can put it in a position that holds it in place. But it does like to rattle a decent bit, which is a bit frustrating. Okay, so now the next thing is to just play the 5th position pickup, which I believe is the neck pickup. This is going to be the beefiest sound, typically, have a lot more bass, and it's one of my preferred sounds. So then the next thing would be to check the next position, which I also need to check the noise floor. This one has a little bit of buzz, just a tiny bit. So it looks like when you go into these in-between positions, the position 4 and 2, that uses 2 of these pickups because it has effectively become a humbucker pickup. It's very cool, nice to see. A lot of guitars do it now because it's just a simple little thing that you can do, but you know, as a guitar manufacturer, you just gotta remember to do it. So that's very cool, and then we gotta check to see if the volume is any different. Hard to tell. I think it might just be quieter because of the configuration. Let's see if the third position is any louder. The middle position. First position. These pickups sound like they might be balanced in their resistance, which means that the volume difference is going to be natural, which to me it did sound like it. Either way, there's nothing too outlandish about what I'm hearing here. Let's go to position 2. Dang it. Had something I wanted to do and I couldn't get it to go right. Everything seems good. The pickups have their distinctive tones because of the position. They just sound like a Stratocaster, which is, I guess, what you want. I have not experienced in many different pickups, but it sounds like the guitar that I like, so I guess let's play a little more with the bridge pickup, because that's one of my least favorite pickups positions. So it definitely seems like the bridge pickup could use a bit of a pick-me-up, could be a little bit boosted, could have a bit of a hotter signal, because it just seems like it is very quiet, so maybe that pickup could do with the changing. But the other two seem pretty good to me. They seem decent, they don't seem out of place, and they seem to have a respectable volume that isn't over the top, but it's also not below the bar. Like, I think that this bridge pickup might be a bit under. So yeah, that is what I had for my sound test. The last thing is my technical tests. So the first thing is the regular intonation. Usually people don't like to use a headstock tuner for this, but usually gets the job done. I don't know about this tuner. This one might not be as great for trying to check intonation, but hopefully it should be able to get the job done. And first of all, it's on the guitar thing, and it's saying it's the 4th string because it's a D, which this is considered drop D, so that's interesting. So it doesn't really try to guess what the string is, it just knows the note is, and then says a number by it for some reason. So it should be pretty close to tuned. It keeps dropping like 1 cent below the middle if it's off. So let's press the 12th fret. Holy crap, it's actually pretty close, at least based on this tuner. It says it's like exactly on. If maybe a little bit sharp, which definitely sounds a little bit sharp maybe to me. But that also can come down to me pressing too hard maybe. Definitely does sound a little sharp, which it keeps saying that it's a few cents sharp, and then it goes back down to being saying that it's the correct note. Did it get the note from a harmonic? That's pretty good. It's also reacting very well right now. I might need to use a different tuner, but for the most part, it is fairly decently close. Now, here's where the real test is I'm going to test this note right here. So it says that this note is just completely off. Now this comes down to the tuner. It doesn't appear to register sharp notes properly, which I was not properly observing at the time either. Instead of showing an A sharp like the note should be, it's just showing a really low tuned B. It's actually saying that it's a half step B. So actually it was pretty close it just doesn't have an actual note for that, or it's not labeling it as a note, because maybe it's going the wrong direction for the scale, I don't know. Yeah, I think the intonation's actually fairly decent on this guitar, which is good because I am not good at adjusting it myself. I've never been able to get it to work right for me. So we're going to end this off with the string change and looking under the pickguard and seeing what kind of electronics we're dealing with. However, I forgot to get my tools ready. Let's get started. We don't need a screwdriver yet. First things first is we have to get the strings off. So I'm going to try and recover these strings because they don't seem like they're too awful bad. They might be a little tinny in how they sound compared to some premium strings or name brand strings. But for the most part, you know, there's nothing wrong with these. They're pretty usable. We still have the back plate off. I'm also going to take out the vibrato bar, which I did a little bit of research, and apparently this is technically vibrato, not tremolo, which actually makes sense, yes. So let's try and just send this back through. I have to try and keep these separated so I know which strings are which. I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover these. I've tried to kind of undo the coil. I don't know how much you can actually see. It was much more coiled up before. I'm trying to straighten it out, but that can be difficult. Also, sometimes the very ends of these strings can be sharp, so be very careful not to poke yourself too awful bad with the ends. Alright, so there's still a hook on there, but I should hopefully be able to get it through. Yeah, okay. Now I have to figure out how I'm going to mark these. I know how I'm going to do it. Got my masking tape, painter's tape. Now, I don't think this is either that technically, but it's what I call it because it's weaker tape that's meant to be removed. We're not going to apply very much. We just need enough that we can write 6 on this. Now let's set that to the side. So we're essentially doing the same thing that the brand did with their strings because they didn't color code the ball ends. They're all just silver, so we have to simply mark them by what their position is meant to be. Now we have to do that for the rest of these strings. So this tuner feels a little bit looser in some places than it does in others. It's tightened up now, which makes it feel very strange since it started so loose. And it made me think that I was tightening it on accident, even though I am turning it the right way and loosening it. So now, once again, we have to try and straighten this out. What's going on here? This one is stuck. So now the question is why? I don't see any logical reason why it should be stuck. So it's giving me a little bit of trouble. I need to find something skinny enough to stick in there and just see if I can dislodge it or something. So I would use the Allen keys that came with the guitar, but I don't have them with me in this room. I could get them in the next room, but I also have this. So I'm going to try this first. And this is technically the wrong way to be trying to dislodge it, because it needs to come out through here. Why is that stuck? Okay, so we have the ultra tiny Allen key here, and I'm hoping that I could fit this in the top part here with the string to try and force it out, and I have dislodged it. So I don't quite know what was jamming it up. Let me try and get some light in there so I can look inside the slot, see if I can identify what it was. So to me, it looks like, unfortunately, there is a burr in the block of this of my tremolo block here. So I believe you can replace even just the blocks, not the whole tremolo system, if that would be something that you would really want to do. But yeah, that's slightly disappointing, but luckily that's not an atrocious fault of the guitar. It'll just make string changes a little more annoying, obviously, like I have had to deal with here. Okay, that's not a good sign. This one's also resisting me. That first string gave me, it seemed like such a good sign, but yeah, this is being a bit of a pain trying to get these strings out. And this is why I wanted to do this in this video. There we go. So if you really wanted to make this into a gigging instrument, you probably would want to change that block, if I were to guess. At the very least.
Over.
What? Excuse you. Oh, I got Northern Line back there. I didn't even remember that. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on exactly and what I'm seeing. It just seems like maybe some of, I don't know exactly how they would have made this, but maybe some of the casting of this, the inner portion here did not quite set properly, and it fell out maybe into the slot. Like you can obviously see, it's a doable. You can do the string change. It just takes an extra step and remembering to have your Allen key, which if you are using the case properly, you should have it, because it has a nice storage pouch. Well, I actually haven't looked in the storage pouch, so I don't know how nice it is, but it has a storage pouch where you can keep, it looks decently sized, so you can keep a lot of accessories in there. I don't know how organized you can keep it in there, but you can keep a decent bit of accessories, by the looks of it. Now these last three strings are unwound strings, and these actually offer a lot less to grip on to get these kinks out. Ow! It flung back and poked its little skinny self into my thumb. Oh shoot, that actually drew blood. Just an itty bitty bit, but it actually did. So this one came out nice and easy, and because, wait, why is this one kinked? Okay, hang on. Ow! Keeps scraping against me. So the very end of this one is kinked for some reason, and I was gonna say it's because it was the saddle was pushed forward, but actually that was the last string. This one is actually pushed farther back, so I don't know why this one is kinked, but either way, it came out super easy, so there's that, I guess. 2 more strings. And this guitar does come with 2 string trees, which I think is fairly common now. This one definitely feels like it's stuck, and I can't even try and force it down because it's an unwound string. So I have to try and get, again, the thing in there, the Allen key, but this is being particularly difficult. Really? Sir? Sir. Come on. You gotta work with me here, or something. Okay, I've now poked it through, finally got it. So that one was particularly difficult for some reason. We'll have to look at that. Now let's look in here. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly how the blockages, I gotta drink some water. How the blockages are, but it's kind of like going through like half of the area here. Okay, so this string is just so skinny that it is resisting the unbending of its, coiling, but it also is so malleable that it kind of just flows out. However, it of course is not flowing out of this slot, so I believe I only had 2 slots where the removal of the strings was easy. Maybe you will get a better unit, I don't know, but this is my experience. And the stringing process is taking just a little bit longer than it needs to because of improper manufacturing of the block in here. This one's also being difficult. I don't know why the other strings are, why the smaller, more easy to work with strings, or easy to remove typically, are the most difficult now. Come on. Now that I think about it, Removing these might be easy enough, but I don't know if I'll be able to reinsert them with these coils on the end. So it might be in my best interest to just leave this one in here for now, because now we have all the strings out of the way. However, that's not the point. I want to, you know, I wanted to remove them and see how easy it is to put them back in. And unfortunately, this last removal is being a serious pain. Like, it is insane. I don't know, I don't understand what is happening. It's kind of ridiculous. So it's hard to tell based on looking in here. It doesn't look like it's being blocked by anything. So that leads me to believe that something has like kind of managed to like poke itself into like maybe the ball end, and it's kind of like locked it into place, unfortunately, which would be really unfortunate. This guitar was doing so good up until this point. Because yeah, I can't even force this in because the string isn't thick enough to, you know, it's not thick enough to push the rope, basically. Yeah, this is just really unfortunate. Come on. Trying to fiddle around in the slot on the other side to see if anything will happen, but it just seems like it's just immobile in there. It is just stuck. That is frustrating. Now, I don't know if this does come down to burrs. It looks like there might be little things sticking out in there, but it also might come down to that maybe these had just been sitting in there for a little too long, and they just got like, I don't know what they would have put in there that would have made it like sticky in there, but you'd think I would have forced it out if that was the thing. Trying to apply a little extra pressure to see if I can kind of push it through if it is something that's just sticking. Come on. Ooh, I think I felt a little movement. Hopefully that wasn't just on the Allen key, me bending it or something. Dude, come on. Give me something to work with here. It's just not budging. Okay. Well, so that's going to be really unfortunate when that string breaks. I'm going to leave it there for now because it is just a serious pain. I can't figure it out. But we can still open up the control panel and see what there is to see. My guess is that I'm not going to be too surprised by what's underneath. It's probably going to be fairly standard in the world of affordable guitars. I also did a bit of research about the type of bridge that is on here. And so one thing that I can also tell you is that by default, this bridge is laid flat on the body, which means that you can only bend downwards, which that's probably pretty standard for affordable guitars as well. It's an easier way to set up the guitar. Oh, that's actually a pickup screw. I need to level that back out. Oops. That was my bad. It's in line and it's right up against the edge, so I really thought I was just going to the next screw. This screw's a little silly. Might have just been put in at an angle. It doesn't look like the screw is actually bent or anything like that. It's fairly short, so I certainly would hope not. Okay, that should be all of the screws. Now it's time for the reveal. I've never actually done this before, so... Ooh. This is fairly tight in there. Did I miss a screw? What in tarnation? Okay, here we go. Okay, here we are. So, the unscrewing left a lot of sawdust. So I'm gonna have to clean that up, hopefully. There is actually not a swimming pool route in the body here, which is surprising, and this actually does have slots big enough for humbuckers to go in the bridge and the neck positions, which would make it into like a super strat style thing, and you can keep your middle position as well. So that's pretty cool. Even though it doesn't have the swimming pool route, it still allows for upgradability if you so desired. I don't know about the compatibility with the screw placement measurements. We got ceramic pickups, fairly standard on affordable guitars. We also do have the small guitar pedal style potentiometers. This switch actually looks It might be a cheaper model because it has the PCB exposed and all that. I'm not really qualified to talk about these types of switches because I don't really work with those very much. And then, yeah, I wanted to try and see... Ooh, I wanted to try and see what size capacitors these are. 100 volt 473. What is that? Okay, so that one is equipped with a 47 nanofarad capacitor. And I would imagine the other one is the same. They made it really hard to tell on that other one. It's flipped around the other way, so the numbers are facing the inside, I think, and I think I saw a 4, so it probably is the same. Because I was thinking maybe they could have done with a little bit bigger capacitors. I don't know what are standard, but when I was sitting there messing with the knobs there, it really wasn't doing a whole lot. It also doesn't say on the backs of the potentiometers what resistance they are. Let's try and get this back in place, and hopefully I did not mess anything up. Okay, there's that. What is stuck? Okay. Alright. So you have to fit it in there just right. It looks like they may have messed up a little bit on the measurements of their routing. The routing looks like it's a little bit forward from the back here. It gets very close to this middle pickup, and that seems to be what it was catching on. But if you get it to slide in, you know, kind of that way, just right, it gets it back in there. So I will fix that in a bit. I forgot that I should try and actually put these strings back on. So let me try and do some restringing here. This might be even more difficult because of trying to reuse strings. This may not actually be a very good judge of character for the guitar for restringing. This would normally not be an issue whatsoever if you just used new strings, which hopefully that will be demonstrated with the other strings, especially the thicker ones, where they were able to hold their shape a little bit better. And also, I am not a professional at restringing guitars. I've just done it, you know, recreationally, so the way I do it might not be the way that a luthier would do it. And some people might be cringing and scoffing at me right now for how I'm doing this. I will tell you that these tuners are making me really work at getting this string tightened. We're finally getting somewhere where the slack is being taken off from the extra amount that I've applied here so that I can get some wraps on. Okay, that's passable and that'll stay there. I don't know if my stringing method is any worse or better than others. I definitely do not have as many wraps, but this has always worked for me on every other guitar, so I'm hoping that it shouldn't be an issue on this one. Now I need to find the second string. Give it to me. They're all getting stuck on each other, and especially this one because it also has a coil because it's so skinny. Okay, you know what, to get an actual reading of this, let's try and use the 5th string, because that one has a burr, but I also was able to straighten out this one the most, other than the 6th string, but that one didn't. That one came out really easily. So let's see if these burrs are really going to be an issue, but then again, this also is a, like, crinkled guitar string. It's definitely resisting me. Something helpful is that I can actually see through the holes a bit if I hold this guitar at the right light. So hopefully I should be able to thread this needle properly. It's just, I can see a little bit better that there's actually a few different directions of burrs, of little lumps in there. So reusing strings like this is certainly a challenge. Normally, when you have a smoother bridge, it's a little easier. I believe I got this through, actually. It's just getting caught on the... It would also help if I put this in the right slot. I was not putting it in the right... I was putting it in the backwards position. I would have put it in the 2 position instead of the 5. Okay. And that came through right away on the other side. So I have that. I need to take off my tape over here. Hopefully that shouldn't be too hard. And that seems like it has sat in place properly. Now let's try and feed this into its proper position right here. Make sure that this stays in the right slot on the nut. Right now, what is rattling in there? Oh, it's the tuner again. Okay. So yeah, if you're using new strings, hopefully the stringing process shouldn't be as much of a pain as it was for me. But let's talk about final impressions of this guitar. So, for the most part, I actually was fairly impressed by the guitar. The intonation seemed to be fairly good. It comes with a bunch of accessories, which is very nice. The accessories are of passable quality. They're not just thrown in for the sake of just saying that they have it. It seems like usable stuff. And the overall construction of the guitar was good upon initial review. However, of course, we did find a couple of issues, which the springs are sort of a fine adjustment thing. For the most part, when you're just learning guitar, you shouldn't be using the whammy bar or tremolo bar. You probably won't be using that for the most part in the first place. However, if you did want to do it, you definitely probably would want to change some of those strings, change the positions maybe, and take out one or two to make it a little more usable. However, that block, it seriously impeded the string change. I literally could not take out the last string, and I don't quite know why. So that's a pretty big issue. Now, hopefully that was just an issue on my guitar, and I will be bringing this up with the company and letting them know about this. So hopefully you have a better experience with that. But otherwise, this guitar it's hard for me to say exactly what it was. I think it was a great guitar, honestly. I may need to do a few adjustments here and there, especially for that low E string, because that is buzzing, but I can try and figure that out. Hopefully it will be addressable, because they already had the back saddles already maxed out on the height, so I might have to do a neck adjustment a little bit there. Either way, I think that this hopefully will be a great beginner guitar. I will have an affiliate link in the description below where it would really help me out if you would use it if you were thinking about purchasing this guitar and its kit. If you did buy this guitar and its kit, let me know. Try and take out your strings. Yeah, just let me know how your string situation was, if you feel comfortable with that, because I really want to know how that's going to turn out and if that's going to be a persistent issue. We normally do guitar, drums, and 3D printing content, among other things, on this channel, so if any of that sounds good, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video and found it informational, please leave a like. There should hopefully be more about this guitar coming out soon, a little more in-depth of how the tones sound and how the accessories all feel and all of that. So yeah, if any of that sounds good as well, please consider subscribing. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm going to say bye-bye.